All right, everybody, now that we've concluded at least a big section of our hay study with my 7 rabbits, I wanted to discuss some of the hays and their results and just kind of give you an overall picture of what we found. And we're going to look at some hays here and even some of the instruments and tools that you can use yourself to, experiment with your own guys and find out what's best for you. Now, let's first look at Timothy hay because that's kind of the standard. That's what a lot of us are using. And so we're going to look at Small Pet Select. Makes it really easy, and they tell us the cut. Now, of course, that just means when it's cut during the summer, but it also means we can expect certain properties from each. And while you won't always get that, or when you receive your batch and there's a lot of trouble getting consistent hay, these guys have a daunting task. And to let you know, the sugar content can vary wildly just from what time of day it is cut. So if your rabbit loves that second cutting one month and the next they don't, it could simply be that it was cut during an earlier time of day. So early in the morning, if it's cut, those plants have used up all that beautiful photosynthesis and all that energy just to keep going during the night. So that hay in the morning is not going to be high in sugar. Now, if it's cut late in the day, in that afternoon, after all that sunlight and absorbing all that photosynthesis, you can get some really high sugar content, sometimes up to like 20%. And we did have one that reached around 17 or so percent. And we're going to talk about that more in depth later. But first, we're going to look at some of the properties of what we expect to see from the different hays. So your first cut Timothy's, you see here, this long guy, is going to be high stem, low leaf, high fiber, low protein and fat. And this is a big deal if you have obese animals, whether it's rabbit or guinea pig, and you're trying to get them to lose weight. And again, they're not going to lose muscle mass on this. So don't be afraid to give it to an animal that you don't want to lose weight. They're not going to lose muscle from eating a healthy hay. So another great thing about this is we hear all the time that you want big golden poop. Well, this has got the fiber to give you just that. So it's a great hay for most animals. It tends to be great for tooth wear and things like that. It's just a good go-to. Now, not all the time will your picky animals eat that, and I know that. So a lot of times we go down to the second cut, which is also a great option. It's going to be kind of in between. So it's less stems, a little more leaves. You have a little less fiber and a little more protein and fat, because you're getting down now to where there are some stems, like I said, but you also have some leafy stuff. And some of these guys, they really like the combination. You should still see some of those seed heads in there, but you're going to get a lot more of this leafy stuff. Now, it's going to look a little similar to the other one here, but this is a third cut. Now, this guy is going to be your lowest in fiber and your highest in protein and nutrients. Now, whether they love this or don't can depend on the sugar content. These guys actually didn't go nuts for the third because it happened to be lower in sugar, meaning it was probably cut earlier. So that, made it not as bad an option. But it's still not got the stems that's going to give you that high fiber and that big, beautiful poop necessarily, and things like that. Now, a lot of people use these for older rabbits. They want them to gain weight and things like that. Just keep in mind, you also want to look at the healthy properties of the others. So maybe if you're doing that, you give it a combination with one of these guys, and that can be a little better. Now, we're going to look at this guy. Now, this was actually came as a medium, so we were expecting a second cut, but it's very soft, very green, it's beautiful, but they did gain a lot of weight on it. It was not the highest weight gain option, but it was up there. They loved the taste. Again, higher in sugar. It looks like a third cut. There's not a stem to be seen. This is just soft. I mean, you could sleep on this. So look out for that. You want the stems. This one a little harder to see, but it does have some stems in there. And this guy, that's very, very stemmy. Most of my rabbits loved it. In fact, they're getting this hay now. I have 6 of the 7 are on a first cut hay and doing great. Again, you'll get those big poop. And I do want to do some comparisons since we're talking about poop. And I did have somebody nibble a little piece out of here, so my apologies. But here we have high desert, because this is the one they happen to lose the most weight on, but I think it's because it followed the week where we had our most weight gain. So we'll show you some orchard grass, but soft orchard is what they gained the most weight off. So we look at all these rabbits. Now, here is their poop sizes, and I'll show you what I did to measure that. So it's not necessarily a scientific measuring tool that I used, but it was pretty precise. It actually made things really easy. They gained 551 grams. Now, the sugar was around 8 to 18% in that one. Again, they absolutely loved the flavor, but their poops were smaller and darker. If we go look at this one, their poops tended to go up in the most case if they were eating it. Lyric had 12, he's our biggest boy. But the big thing is they all lost weight. So turned around in the next week and lost just 10 grams shy of what they'd gained the week before. So you're not always gonna see that kind of weight loss. Again, these were back-to-back weeks, so they put on the most with this one and then just turned around and lost a lot on a first cut. So it can make a big difference. If you've got a kid, you want to lose weight, first cut can make a drastic difference. And you can see that just by changing hay, not their pellets, not treats, not anything else, all we were doing in this hay study was changing hays. And you can get them to go up in weight or down. Sometimes, you know, especially with second cut, it's kind of stable. So you see some gain a little, some lose a little, and that's important too, because if you're looking to just maintain, you can absolutely try a second cut or another type of hay. We did have rabbits lose weight on Grandpa's Best orchard grass. So not necessarily can you say one or the other is going to work every time, because that sugar content is not something we know what it will be until we get it, and it changed drastically even from one batch to the next, so bear that in mind too. Another one we tried is oat hay. So there's two examples of oat hay. In both cases, this is a super long, very long, can't even get it all in the frame. But you'll see each example, they've got the oats, which a lot of these guys love to pick off the oats and leave these big stalks. Now your oat hay tends to be higher in fiber, protein, and fat. It's similar to an alfalfa. So normally we wouldn't feed an alfalfa. Now oat hay, most of us don't feed it by itself. It might be your treat hay. It might be used in some cases to add to your hay for a rabbit, like our girl Buns, who is 9.5, and she's on the pickier side. She won't necessarily eat enough first cut to make it her only option, unlike all of the others. So she gets a little bit of oat hay to kind of give her larger poops and stuff like that. So kind of high in everything. And so not, you know, potentially not the best option to have as your only hay. Again, because a lot of these guys will leave this good fibery stuff and just eat the oats. They love those. All right, now let's look at two examples of orchard. Now orchard does come in a coarse option. I don't have that here. That will be higher in fiber. But right here we have two versions of the soft. This one being the one that absolutely tasted great, but again, this was the one they put the most weight on. So in 1 week, about 551 grams between 7 rabbits is what they gained. So pretty extensive. They're pretty high on the weight gain. If you want to feed orchard grass as your only one, just be very careful. Make sure it has some stems in there. You know, watch what you're using, even experiment. The thing with some of these was, and the reason we did the hay study was because I was really scratching my head. I'm like, I am supposed to be this vet tech who really knows nutrition. It's what I do for a living. And I have this girl that just keeps gaining weight and I don't know what's wrong. I tried all the, different foods and tried, okay, if I don't give her any treats at all and all these different things. But I realized over time that when I looked, even though I was more concerned with her, all of them, the whole group, would be going up or down at the same time. And the only variable, because they were on different pellets to begin with. So the fact that they would go up and down at the same time told me it was, ding, 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 it's the hay. The hay is the variable that keeps changing, because even if you get the same cut from the same company month after month, it's going to continuously change. Different, weather hitting them, different conditions for the field. You could have more clover, less clover, cut, you know, different times of day, so you have more sugar in one and less in the other. And keep in mind, higher sugar can actually be a positive. So we don't want it sky high, but what that means is if you have a rabbit who absolutely loves that hay and eats a lot of the second cut, they can actually have their largest poops. Buns at one point loved a second cut Timothy that had a little bit higher higher sugar content. It was somewhere in the mid-range, but it was high enough that she ate a lot of it, and she did really, really great. It happened to be the period when her poop was the largest that we've seen it, and we love that. It was also, she was coming off antibiotics, so she was kind of a rogue kid during this whole study. But, you know, if it's so low in sugar they don't eat it, that can be a problem. So balancing that ratio out is really important, and I know it's not easy. I know it's not. These farmers and companies have their hands full, which is why Sherwood no longer sells hay themselves. It is a tedious business, you guys. You're at the mercy of Mother Nature, and I was told back when Sherwood sold hay that they, you know, being perfectionists as they are, were throwing away up to 40% that didn't go out to customers. And that's a lot of loss. So we don't want to do that. Now, I want to show you some of the instruments we used, and you can absolutely get these yourself. So these are just little pH strips. Now, all you do is stick that in, the little stick, into some fresh urine and wait for that to change color. And here you go, you read based on the color chart here. So we're aiming for neutral, which is 7. A lot of these guys tend to be basic, but that's often when you get into issues with stones and sludge and things like that. So our goal is around 7. And it did make a big difference. It did seem, you know, typically we see higher pH and ammonia in the morning versus evening, which is why we say if you're going to give a little treat of greens like lettuce or anything, do it in the morning. That way they eat a ton of hay in the evening. And again, our goal is to get that closer to neutral. Now, ammonia is another thing you can do, and these are just available on Amazon and probably a dozen other places. But this is another stick similar, and it takes a little bit longer before you read it, but we want low on the ammonia scale because that means less excess protein waste, less odor, and things like that. So, of course, one of the goals of Sherwood is to get rid of that urine smell. But whatever you're on, you can absolutely monitor their urine. And we have a lot of people that say, you know, even from other countries who are dealing with stone pigs and things like that, and they're monitoring those values on an almost daily basis and watching for, you know, with the goal of keeping them in that neutral zone. And speaking of guinea pigs, I did find a poop chart that I actually did kind of test on the guinea pig poop to see if we could look at different sizes. So that's what this guy is. We're kind of using it not in a way it was intended, but look at all the drugs for these little exotic animals. They're all off label. So that's how we're using things as well. To test poop sizes, you can also use one of these guys, a nice digital caliper here. I actually did not use it because I got it pretty late in the study, but this is what I use to measure guinea pig or rabbit poop, sorry. Now, there's a certain amount of holes here. There were a lot of times that they would be in between sizes. So if you notice, it'll go 8, 9, 10, 12. So there's no 11. And there was a lot of times that I felt it fell in the 11, so I would go with that. So to me, if it fit snug in there and didn't fall out, but also wasn't squished in there, that's the size I went with. If there was a gap, I would go, even slight gap, I would go back down to the lower size. So it was really easy. Typically they fit right in those little holes, and that's how I got numbers like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I believe Creamsicle or, you know, and Lyric had up to 13, which is really exciting. Now, you can always test these things at home, and I was weighing them. I know some people, and I do have a video about it. This is what I use to weigh these guys. It's actually just a little digital food scale. You can get these cheap from just about anywhere. I've tried other ones like the flat ones, and they just did not work for me the way that one did. You can use any kind of tub. I use just an IKEA tub. that you put them in. It's easy to clean out. It works for the guinea pigs and the rabbits. They don't exactly appreciate it, but it's been my go-to for years. And it's always important to weigh your guys. We were doing it every week. You can do it, you know, a little less than that. Some people are doing it more. If you have something like a sick guinea pig or a rabbit that may be losing weight at an alarming rate, you know, it's very important to check on that. If you have, say, a rabbit like Reiki, who we've kind of done this little weight loss journey with and still are, we're still working with her, you know, it's not, you know, a bad idea to check that more often, more frequently. I once had a guinea pig years ago that had kidney disease, and so he was losing weight. He lost a lot of his appetite and things like that. So he was getting, you know, a recovery food in addition to his meal every day. And the goal was to kind of keep his weight steady. And it did a great job, but it was really important to weigh him every single day. So whether you're doing it a lot or you're doing it infrequently, it's just a great tool to have, especially when it's so cheap and easy to get. So if you have any questions, if there's anything I didn't think of that you want to know, again, you can always contact me and I'll give you all the analysis reports. We've even got duplicates as far as one company. If we've gotten their hay or received their hay a few different times, you know, we may have a few different results. For example, we've got rabbit hole hay, orchard grass. We have 2 different reports on that. We're actually even just now sent 2 more samples off of coarse hays or first cut Timothy, so we can get, you know, we love comparing from one month to the next, the same company, the same, a different batch, because you can see just how much that sugar content and other values change. So don't think that we can just say, hey, this one's great or this one's bad. That's not our intent. The reason we tested out so many different companies for the study was not to determine which ones were good and bad, but only to account for that variability that you're going to get constantly. Hay very rarely comes the same way twice, so you'll see it just up and down and all over the place. And just remember, these guys have a really hard job to do, so respect to all those hay companies. We know it's not easy, and it's tough being at the mercy of Mother Nature. But if you have any questions, anything we didn't cover, you know, we'd love to talk and give details, and if we need to, we'll do some more videos and a follow-up. I know this was long, and if you've made it this far, you are awesome. Thank you. I hope you learned something. If we can do better, let us know. Thank you so much.